Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I am Harry Laseniziris, and this is my YouTube channel, grecochess. And we're continuing the series of playing against the chess.com bots, starting from the weakest and going all the way up. And let's see how far we can go until we are defeated. Today, in this video, we are facing the 21st bot. We have already defeated the 15 beginner ones, and now we are facing the 6th of the intermediate. It is Sven from Slovenia that has a rating of 1100. The rules are the same. Every bot will face it twice, once with white, and meaning I have white, the bot is black, and once I have black, and the bot has white. And the rule is the following. If I win, I continue, meaning if I win with white, I face the same bot with black. And if I win with black, I continue to the next bot, next video with white. If it's a draw, I have to play again the same bot with the same colors. And if I lose, the series is over. And the whole question is, how far can I go before I face my first loss? And Sven starts by telling us Stravo, which I believe should be a greeting in the language, the local language. And then Sven says, just don't take any of my pieces, okay? No, Sven, it's not okay. It's up to you to protect your pieces. And I'm starting with white. As usual, with my e-pawn. This is called the filet de defense. So usually sometimes first you play e5, then d6, but it's in the same group. I move my pawn to d4, so I have two pawns occupying the center. How do I defend my pawn on e4? That's attacked by the knight on f6. I'm not going to push it because push, and then I lose my queen. Instead, I protect it with my knight. The other knight, continue developing my pieces, and until now Sven is playing okay. Yes, it's a fianchetto, pawn to g6 and bishop to g7. What do I want to do now? Let me develop my other bishop as well. And now let me tell you which square I should not place it. I should not place it on c4 because Sven will take on e4, I take it back, and then there is a fork with a d5 pawn. This you may have seen in many YouTube videos is one of the top mistakes that beginners may do. But it's not a big mistake. Yes, you have to pay a price, but it's a relatively small price, especially at the level I'm playing now. It really decides the game. Bishop goes to d3. Castling. What would I like to do now? I wish I could exchange the bishop on g7, but how to do it? Ideally, I should put my bishop somewhere along this diagonal, and my queen goes to either c1 or d2. Then bishop goes to h6, and then I exchange. But if I try, the most obvious square would be e3, but then knight goes to g4. That's why first I'm going to push the pawn to h3. Now bishop goes to e3. Now queen goes to d2. Do I have any chance to win anything? The pawn at c6 is unprotected, but I'm not attacking it. Let's follow my original plan. Let's see if I can remove the bishop on g7. Yes. Ideally, but it doesn't make that difference at our level. The opponent is not supposed to start the exchange. We'll ask you to start the exchange. And if only could put my knight on g5 and threaten mate with h7, but for the time being, there is a knight at f6. Let's see if I can remove it. Are you trying to break through my fortress? Of course, that's what I'm trying to do. And now let's see where the knight on f6 will go. Oh, even better than what I was hoping. I was hoping the knight would go somewhere else. For example, e8. Or maybe the best score would be d5. g5 and then put my pawn on g5, but Sven gives me the knight for free. Have an extra piece. On the other side, my attack doesn't go so fast as I was hoping. And now, if only the knight on d7 was not... Now, the knight is gone, but what's happening is that the queen on d8 is protecting the pawn on f6. Otherwise, I would check here and checkmate next move, but this cannot happen, at least not now. Any chance I can put my knight on g5, pawn takes it, and then I take it and threaten with mate. The problem is if it doesn't work, I've lost a piece. Let's think seriously. It looks like my positional style hasn't paid off in this game, says Sven, and I think you have a point. I put the e4 knight on any one of the knights on g5. You take with your pawn. I put my other knight on g5, and then it is mate unless... Is there any catch? I don't see any catch. Let me try it. I'm already a piece ahead. Unless you take my knight with your queen. You didn't? And let's see, do we have mate in two moves? That's what it seems. Yes. You know something I don't. Can I have a rematch? Well, Sven, I think you memorized, like many bots in your rating, you memorized a few moves in the beginning and you play them very well. But at some point, when we are out of theory, you make mistakes. And let's review it now with the help of the chess.com software. Team review. Let's see how well did we do. I think it was quite an easy win, especially once I saw this combination. You could have postponed it, you had delayed it if you took my knight with your queen. I have 89.5 versus 62 for Sven. And I played for 2000 versus 800 for Sven. For me, it's great. It's more than 400 above my rating. For poor Sven, it's 300 points below his ratings. And I had a brilliant move. I can guess which one was a brilliant when I sacrificed my first knight. One great. Best 7 versus 3, excellent. 4 for Sven, 3 for me. Book moves the first 4. That's what's happening at our level. The bots have memorized some openings and they play well so long as they are within the opening theory. Mistakes. 4 for Sven. Miss. I missed 3 times. Let's see which times did I miss. And Sven missed twice. Let's go move by move. First 4 are going to be book ones. Until here, it is booked the first 4 moves, and I have a very small advantage of 0.5. And let's minimize this or move it a little bit so we can see the number 0.50. You can also see it at the bottom left. Excellent, not the best, but an excellent. Okay, move excellent for black. Excellent, excellent. Until now, it's okay. H3 is excellent. The computer would like me to push my pawn from a2 to a4. I'm very reluctant to move pawns because they leave weaknesses behind. But sometimes you have to do it, and I don't always do it. This was a mistake because you're supposed to play towards the center. Especially here, if the pawn went to e5, you'd have a nice chain c7, d6, e5. I miss. What did I miss? Yes, I could have put my own pawn on e5, but I want to finish developing first before I attack. There are some rules that are correct most of the times. Once in a while, there are exceptions. Perhaps I hit an exception, assuming the computer is right. Miss again? What did I miss? To create a pawn chain. Yes, but I had another plan in my mind, the h6 square and exchange with the bishop at g7. Miss again. I'm 1.11 ahead. As you remember, I already noticed that the c6 is unprotected, this pawn, but I didn't see any way to attack it. But I kept it in my mind in case this opportunity would arise in the future. Again, the computer wants me to play e5. I wanted to remove the bishop on g7 because since the pawn has moved to g6, for the dark colored squares, this bishop is the main defender. And this is a mistake, not only for avoiding the move from e7 to e5, the computer wants both of us to move a pawn to e5, but because the dark squares near the king are undefended. This is the best move. I'm threatening to win a knight. And now this was a mistake. When everything is decided on the king's side, you either play in the king's side or perhaps for strategic reasons the center, but not on the opposite side, pawn to a5. And now I'm ahead by 4.45. Great, yes, because I'm winning a knight, because if the knight moves, I'm very near mate. What could Sven do? Move the bishop to, excuse me, the knight to d5, my knight goes to g5, then how to avoid a mate? I don't see how. No, first, let's see, first, pawn takes pawn, correct? Pawn takes pawn, and now, what could Sven do? It seems that no matter what Sven is doing, my knight goes to g5, and then I'm threatening with h7, and there is no defense against it because the rook on f8 does not allow the other knight to go to f8. Excellent move, not because it creates a pawn chain, but because it postpones my mate. But I'm winning the knight. Now I'm trying to see how I can increase my advantage. Yes, this is a way, of course, because I'm threatening the pawn at f6. Currently, it's defended twice, by the knight and by the queen. And b6 is excellent. You like the choice. So instead of the pawn being defended by by two pieces, defended only by one. And this is a brilliant move. You left your knight vulnerable, but it was a brilliant sacrifice. This move wins the queen. When I played this move, I knew that either it would work and it would be a brilliant one, or if it did not work, it would be a blunder because I would lose a knight. I took my chance. I was already a piece ahead, so even if it was a blunder, at least I would not be down. I would have equal material. You play these brilliances. Okay, if you have calculated everything, fine. Otherwise, either if you have such a huge advantage so that even if you lose a piece, you're still ahead, or if you play against a very strong player that you know that if you leave the game go in a natural way, you have no chance. But like that, who knows? The best, of course. And this is the best. What Sven should have done now is use the queen to take my knight. Sven would, and then I take the queen, would have lost the queen for two pieces, but the game at least would continue for a while. Instead, Sven made a mistake, made in two moves. You see the plus m2 both here, and it was obvious. Check on h7, m in 1, and f7. The first game is over. Now I'm going to face Sven with the black pieces. Again, Sven starts by asking me, just don't take any of my pieces, okay? No, Sven, it's not okay. It's your responsibility to defend your pieces and try to win my pieces. But let's see what's going to happen. Sven starts with the Areti open. You can see here the name, named after chess player Areti, which means instead of starting with any of the pawns, you can start with your knight on f3. It's a valid opening, and I'm going to play symmetrically. Knight goes to c6. Pawn goes to g3. This looks like what's called the Catalan opening. The bishop will go to g2. And at the highest level, it's quite playable. Yes. What should I do now? I cannot, of course, move my e-pawn to e5. It's lost. Let's move my knight to f6. Castling. Till now, Sven is playing quite well. And because I don't want my bishop to be blocked, I cannot play e5. It's lost, the pawn is lost from the knight. If I play e6, the bishop is blocked. And that's why I'm going to move my bishop to f5. So I can play next move, the e6. Let's continue developing. I don't want to put my knight on d6 because then pawn goes to e4, and after exchange, save one of my pieces, pawn can go to e5, and I'm in a fog. And that's why I put my bishop on e7. Next move, the pawn may go to g5, and the bishop is in danger, but can always place it on g6. Instead, I'm going to castle king size. And Sven decides to play his b-pawn to b3. I believe Sven's hope is to place his bishop on b2. Till now, Sven has played quite well the black pieces. What should I do? I wish I could first control this diagonal, but it's not going to be easy because if I put my bishop on any of these two squares and then here, Sven attacks the knight and the bishop, and I lose a piece. So instead, let's add some safety to my king. I'm good now. What can I do? If I put my bishop on c5 or d6, let's push it on d6. And pawn goes to d4. What this means that if Sven puts his bishop on b2, it has a very limited scope. I attack the pawn on d4 with my knight on c6, but it's also defended by the knight on f3. Let me place my queen on which square? Let's place it on d7, so now rooks can also connect. Rook goes to e8, and the pawn goes to b4. If I push my pawn to e5, what will happen? It's going to be attacked once, twice, and defended once, two, three times. Let's try to do this to gain some more space. But before that, the pawn will attack my knight, so the pawn will be defended one less time. Let's move my pawn to a6. Queen goes to e1, opposite of my rook. So really now I want to open the position. See, my rook can attack. I don't mind captures as long as I can still defend. Well, you should think more seriously than that. Are you trying to break through my fortresses? Of course. What do you think? Take back the pawn with my knight. Should I exchange knights? I don't think so, because then this opens the diagonal for the bishop. You never exchange just for the sake of exchanging. But if I put my knight on d3, I attack the queen. Pawn cannot take my knight because rook takes queen. But queen will go to d1. Any follow-up after that? I'm going to do something tricky, see if it works. Bishop goes to c2, and then knight goes to d3. I'm going to try to see if this is going to work. Nope. But at least now I'm threatening the pawn at c3. Yes, I got my pawn. I'm attacking the rook. Where can the rook go? Ooh, not too many places can go. Rook can go to d3 and threaten the pawn at e2. Yes, exactly what I wanted, because now I want the queen. Can defend without my queen. Let's see. Not on my head. Let's start exchanging pieces. After some exchanges, yes, I'm going to give some Luft, as it's called. Some Luft is a German word that means air. Some air for my king, so I don't have to worry about back rank. Let my pawn go to c6 and defend the one on d5. How do I continue? Let's exchange rooks. Or will I take it? I have two choices, with a knight or with a queen. With the queen, I take control of the e-file. The knight, the good thing is, after it goes to e8, he can go to d6 but or c7 and continue. While here, I can also go to h5. Let's take with the queen. What should I do? Of course, it's very tempting to check with my queen. And so what? So what? I win the pawn at f2. I think it's a good idea. Is it safe at e1? Yes. I won the pawn. And I'm also, for at least for one moment, I pinned the bishop at g2. Where can I go now? Let my knight go to h5 and threaten the bishop at the f4. Well, nothing came out of that. The bishop just ran away. Let me attack the rook at b3. And if it leaves, I might be able to take the pawn at d3. Have to be careful. I cannot check because the bishop will take my knight. But the rook is more than a knight, so let me take the rook. Now let me take the pawn at d3. Yes, I sacrificed my rook, but I took so much material back. And I have queen versus two bishops. In theory, the queen is stronger, but I need to be very careful. It doesn't take too much. A skewer, an x-ray, or who knows what, and my queen can be gone. And if my queen is gone, my pawns are not enough. So let me take one more pawn. Okay. Sven defends the other pawn. What I'd like to do now is, if possible, attack the two bishops. If I could put the two bishops on the same line, but can I? I don't see how. Let me start pushing my pawn. I have a passed pawn from d5 goes to d4. Now it goes to d3. I'm not sure if your bishops can stop it. I put it to d2. It cannot yet promote because the bishop on f3 covers the square of f1. I'm going to put my queen on d3. And hopefully next move, I'll attack the bishop. Yes, now I'm going to really attack the two bishops with a fork. Double attack. My queen goes to f1. And you see that both the bishops are threatened, both the one on d1 and the one on f2. I win one of them. Now it's much easier because I have to face one and not two bishops, and I'm going to win the bishop by another fork, but now it's king versus threatening king and bishop. Take the bishop. And now it's quite simple. I have a queen and quite a lot of extra pawns. In theory, if I lose my queen and all of my pawns, these two pawns cannot give a win to Sven because they are rook pawns, but why take the chance? I'm going to promote here. You have two queens. And it's over. So it's over with Sven. I beat Sven with both colors. Let's once again review the second game. The second was much longer than the first. The first was what's called the miniature. And let's see what are the statistics. How did we do? It's stuck. What's happening here? Let me check my Wi-Fi connection. It is okay. But why is it here? I don't understand why it's stuck here. There's something happening with chess.com at this moment. It's stuck at the 1%. Let me refresh and see if it's going to work. It seems that there is something is happening with the connection. I'm going to refresh here, see if this is going to work. Yes, it worked finally. Good. And let's see the statistics. 79.7% for Sven and 88.4% for me. Sven played much better than last time. Instead of 800, he doubled his rating, more than doubled. It went to 1650. I had the same rating before of 2000. None of us had brilliant or great moves. Best 16 versus 14 for me. Excellent 13 for me. 11 for Sven. Good 5 versus 3. Book, we have both of us 3 book moves. Inaccuracy 7 versus 5. 7 had Sven, 5 for me. One mistake each of us. And Sven had 2 blunders. And let's go move by move. The first 3 are book moves. The fourth, inaccuracy, maybe a little bit too early for castling, but many times it's done. I don't think that's a big mistake. Computer would rather have the pawn go from d2 to d4. At that point, when I was playing the game, I miscalculated. I didn't want my pawn to go to e5. I was afraid it would be lost by the knight, but my knight is protecting it. So that's why the computer felt I should have placed my pawn on e5. Not a big mistake, just missed a chance I might have had. Again, the computer would rather have my pawn go to e5. I sent it to e6 because on e5 I only saw the knight at f3, but my knight at c6 was protecting it. Till now, things go more or less okay with excellent or good moves. Inaccuracy, well, there is an idea behind that. Place your bishop on b2 and control the dark long diagonal. Okay, again and again, I missed a chance to place my pawn on e5 because of a false fear. I was afraid the pawn would be lost, but in reality, it would not. Till now, Sven has a very small advantage. And the computer thinks this is a bad move, moving the king from g1 to h1. Why? Because it doesn't serve any purpose, just a waste of a move. It's not a bad by itself, but for example, Sven could have placed his bishop on b2, as the computer says, to be in the long diagonal, or do anything that would help his case, not just a neutral move. From now on, I have a better position than Sven, slightly better, you see, not that much, but again, bishops go long diagonal. This was inaccuracy. Well, I played it because I wanted to avoid the pawn going to b5. And this was a blunder. And I missed a chance to take the pawn. Because I was so much fascinated with the idea of opening the position, moving my pawn, that I forgot that I had a free pawn. I put my bishop on c2, it's an inaccuracy. Yes, if I had put it on f5, then I would have attacked the pawn on h3 twice, defended only once the bishop. I would have, but still the king could go to h2 and cover. I should have taken with my rook. And this is clearly a blunder because now I'm taking the h3, excuse me, the c3 pawn for free. And now I'm way ahead, 3.84. This is the best. I was thinking originally, but this would not work at all, to put this bishop on b3, but then the knight can take it, but bishop takes queen, and the rook has nowhere to go if my opponent decides not to sacrifice the queen by moving the knight. Excellent! I'm getting a queen for free. Not for free, for the price of a bishop. And the rook. Yes, I got a queen, but I paid it with a rook and a bishop. Since the queen is 9 pawns, the rook is 5, and the bishop 3. I got 9 pawns for the price of 8. Well, I won something, but not that much as I was hoping. Changing now. Exactly. Your move provides an escape square for your king. It doesn't matter how ahead your material, if you allow a back rank mate for the opponent, you lose the game. And better prevent it while you have time and not when it becomes urgent. Computer would rather have my rook go to e8. I had this in mind, but I wanted first to secure my pawn on d5. And now that's what I play. I'm ahead by 3.15. 5.28 after this move by the rook. Queen goes to e1 check. Win the pawn. Good move. Knight threatens the bishop, and I'm ahead in material. Why not exchange? Yes, my opponent avoids this loss. My queen goes to c2, threaten the rook. And I take the rook and sacrifice my knight, and I also take another pawn, and now my material advantage becomes much larger. 555, I got the computer in my head. And now I'm starting the race for promotion. Usually, if you play with strong players, this race is not always so easy with many obstacles and hurdles, but Sven did not try too hard to stop it. If you play with computers, unless at the very high levels, they are not good in stopping pawns going to promotion because in their calculation, a pawn is worth only 1 point. And they don't take it so seriously until it's too late. Of course, if you play with the strongest computers today, Stockfish and so on, they know how to deal with that. Now the opponent, Sven, suddenly realized that they need to stop the pawn, but I find ways to it. And now the fork. Nice fork. You'll be winning a bishop. You're threatening to force eventual checkmate. Yes, that's true. And they win the light colored bishop. They win now also the other one. Let's see, finally, from this point on, I have an M, meaning computer can see a mate until the end. In 6 moves, in 5 moves, in 2 moves, again in 2 moves, in 2 moves, in 1 move. Computer thinks I can mate now. Yes, if I put my queen on g1 to mate, a little bit slower than the best, but it's over. We eliminated Sven, and let's see who is next in the list. The 22nd bot, or 7th among the intermediates, and it is Amir from Turkey. The next video, I'm facing Amir from Turkey, who starts by telling us, my kids think I'm a grandmaster, don't tell them otherwise. I'm not going to tell them otherwise. Hopefully, I can show them otherwise. But that's the next video. For now, ladies and gentlemen, thanks for watching. Thanks to the subscribers. And thanks to the ones that have hit the like button or have left some nice positive comments. The next video will be against Emir from Turkey. I'm Harry Lauseniziris. This is my YouTube channel grecochess. Goodbye.